All right, what's happening, everyone? Welcome to another episode of VMFC. Of course, as you all know, soccer is officially back. La Liga, the Premier League, and Serie A all have officially announced the dates in which they will make their returns, which means, of course, that this summer is going to be jam-packed with a lot of soccer. It's definitely what we expected. We expected a summer full of soccer, but not necessarily club soccer. So that's pretty cool. It's a bit of a different twist, and I'm glad that it all ended up working out somehow, some way. Of course, they were going to make it work somehow, some way. So this episode is called Summer of Soccer, the Ultimate Guide, because there are going to be so many games being played at various different times and so many different teams with so many different storylines. I'm going to tell you guys what you should follow and, of course, who you should keep up with. Before we even begin all of this, let's address the obvious. The first thing that's going to come to mind for a lot of people. Let's just get this out of the way. Every title won in this season has an asterisk. Asterisk. Whoa, I cannot say that word. Every title is going to have a bit of a bruise. Why? Because the season was suspended for 2 months. Because there's going to be no fans when they return. Or so we think. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But generally speaking, there won't be any fans in attendance for these games. And it's just a completely different world that we're going to be in once these seasons kick off again. So there's going to be a bit of an asterisk in every single title won this season. But who cares? We move on. It is what it is. That is the world that we have to live in now. We move forward. All right. The ultimate guide to the Premier League. Here we go. 3 things that you should be following. The first one, of course, we all want to see Liverpool. We all want to see how Liverpool ends up winning the title as I adjust my headphones because my hair is in the way. I'm going to get a haircut very, very soon. Thank goodness. Of course, we all want to see Liverpool win the title. How they win the title. It doesn't matter if you're an Arsenal fan, an Everton fan, a Chelsea fan, a Tottenham fan, a United fan, a City fan. It doesn't matter. We all want to see how Liverpool wins the title. Of course, Liverpool fans want to see this more than anyone else. But it looks like finally it's going to happen. And that's good because at the end of the day, Liverpool has done absolutely everything possible to earn their first ever Premier League title. And that's good. That's good for them. But I just want to see how they celebrate with this whole social distancing bullcrap. I really want to see how the trophy gets passed around, even though they're not supposed to be sharing anything and they're supposed to be 6 feet apart or whatever. But we just all want to see. We all want to see how Liverpool finally wins the Premier League title. And again, whether you love them or you hate them, you just want to see it. You want to see a major league in soccer crown its first champion post-pandemic. So we all want to see that. We'll definitely see how that goes. The second thing that you guys should be following in the Premier League is the race for a European spot. As of right now, Liverpool, of course, Manchester City, Leicester, and Chelsea are all going to the Champions League. Manchester United would be going to the Europa League again. And there are a few teams actually that are in the race for that Europa League spot that Manchester United currently owns. And that includes Wolverhampton, Sheffield United, shout out Alex Turner and the Arctic Monkeys, Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, Burnley, and even Crystal Palace. I mean, the separation in these spots it's minimal. The amount of points that there's a difference, it's really minimal. Let me rephrase that because that did not sound like English at all. But first I need to pull up the Premier League table because it is important. Of course, as you all know, 5th place goes to the Europa League and it's Manchester United that's in 5th place, right? So, Manchester United has 45 points. In 6th place, what the hell is going on? In 6th place, we have Wolverhampton with 43. And then in 7th place, we have Sheffield with 43. And in 8th, we have Tottenham with 41. And in 9th, Arsenal with 40. You see what I mean? How close this race for that Europa League spot is. It is a really close race, and of course we have to monitor it because there are so many teams that can potentially knock off Manchester United and go to the Europa League themselves. I think that the Champions League run or the race for the Champions League is pretty much done. Liverpool, Manchester City, and Leicester City are definitely going to be in the Champions League next season. That's almost guaranteed. Chelsea's kind of hanging by a thread. They have 48 points. United has 45. So even some of those teams, excluding probably Arsenal, Tottenham, and of course down even more from like ninth down, there won't be any possibilities to get a Champions League spot. But I still think that Wolverhampton and Sheffield might even have a chance at this Champions League spot. And if you guys recall, Manchester City does have a ban, which still stands. So I stand corrected. Manchester City will not be going to the Champions League. It will be Liverpool, Leicester, Chelsea, and Manchester United. That is terrible preparation on my behalf, and I do apologize. But here's the thing. There's still that Europa League spot hanging that now Wolverhampton would have. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's just say that Manchester City gets that banned. Hello, welcome to VMFC. I can't speak. Let's just say that for whatever reason, Manchester City can get that ban lifted, and they can play Champions League next season. So then we have that Europa League race even more interesting. And even without Manchester City, and if everything stands how it is right now, that race for the Europa League spot is still very, very interesting. So that's something you definitely have to monitor. And even the Champions League race, for whatever reason, it didn't click. I completely forgot that Manchester City cannot play Champions League. As of right now, they can't play Champions League next season. So it just makes the Champions League race even more interesting in the Premier League. And the third thing that I think you should follow coming into this restart of the Premier League. How will the Premier League handle any potential positive test? It's been very clear that the Premier League, I've made it very clear myself, my opinion, of course, that the Premier League hasn't been handling this whole pandemic situation quite well. If anything, out of the major leagues in the world, I think that the Premier League has handled it the worst. I said that last week. You can go ahead and watch that video again. But what happens if a couple of players test positive for one team? Does that mean that whoever they played against within the last week or two have to quarantine as well? It just causes a lot of chaos. And to be fair, those were some of the questions that we had when the Bundesliga came back too. So it's not exclusive to the Premier League, but it does frighten me a little bit, the fact that the Premier League didn't handle this whole situation quite well, and it took them so long to come to an agreement, let alone even go back to the pitch. So that's what you have to monitor for the Premier League. Is going to be very interesting. I'm so happy that the Premier League is back. That's for sure. The Serie A. Let's move on to Italy, one of the countries that has been affected the most by this whole pandemic, of course. It really started right there, of course, besides in Asia. It started in Italy, where a lot of people were affected by this, and they were one of the first leagues that actually wanted to return. And that was very surprising. It was very interesting because you would have thought that they wanted more time. You would have thought that potentially they maybe even wanted to cancel their season, but they're like, no, we want to play. We want to finish this season. Juventus, at least the heads of Juventus said, you know what? If the season is canceled, don't award the title to anyone. They said, I know we're in first place, but I don't want to win a title like that. We don't deserve a title like that, and no one in the league deserves to see a champion like that. So it's a very interesting take, and of course, the Serie A is back, and I just want to see how different Italy is culturally, because in Italy, people are they're very similar to Hispanic people, to my people, We hug and kiss a lot. We're very affectionate. We're just very, I don't want to say hands on, but our handshakes are firm, and we hug our people, that our loved ones. So I just want to see how that all plays out, and not that we're gonna see much of that like family stuff in the actual games, but we know how the players celebrate, and that goes in every league. We know how that goes. They high five, they hug, they do everything, right? So it's going to be very different. It's going to be completely different, and I just want to see how this country is able to bounce back after such terrible last few months that they had to go through. There's something that jumped to my attention immediately. The president of the Italian Soccer Federation, his name is Gabriele Gravina, said, and this is the second thing that I think you should be following. He said that he hopes, not saying that this is done, not saying that this is for certain, but he's saying that he hopes that by the end of this season that's going to be played, there can be some fans in the stadium. Wishful thinking? Yes. I definitely think that's wishful thinking. But wouldn't that be awesome to see even 10% of the stadium filled to its capacity? If I can't speak today, I don't know what's going on. I cannot speak. If 10% of the capacity is seen or is sold to the public, that would be nice, just to see some people, to hear some authentic fan reactions. That would be really cool. And it interests me so much that it's Italy. Out of all of the countries, out of all of the federations, they're the ones that want to get back to normal as soon as possible. So that's really interesting. I think that it would be a big step towards going back to normal, of course. A little bit ambitious right now, I would say, but one can only hope. I would absolutely love to see some fans in the stadium by late July, early August. That would be incredible. And the third thing, Juventus, because Juventus has had a very similar season to Bayern Munich, where they haven't been playing, well, at least they didn't play to the best of their abilities in the beginning of the season. They were dropping a lot of points, and they weren't in first place, which is usually where they are, like Bayern Munich. We thought that might be the end of their reign. We thought that's where it pretty much starts and where it ends. We thought that it was the end of their reign, and it clearly wasn't, because Juventus and their greatness eventually took over. They know how to win these types of games. They know how to conserve their energy up until the end stretch of the season. And that's what they were doing and what they did. So now going into the end of this season, because now it's literally going to be the end of the season, how will they play with 2 months rest? Cristiano Ronaldo, this is probably the longest rest Cristiano Ronaldo has ever had. Dybala as well, probably the longest rest he's ever had. A lot of these players, because we know that their season doesn't end in May. They usually have to travel with their nation to play either a friendly or a continental competition or qualifiers or something like that. So now that these great players are well rested, and this applies for many more, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now that some of these players are well rested, especially in Juventus, are they just going to completely take over and dominate like Bayern Munich has in the Bundesliga ever since May 16th when they returned, or May 17th, whatever the day was that Bayern Munich returned? I think that's probably the case. That's probably going to be the case because Juventus just has the greatness to eventually take over. They can take over games. They can take over an entire season. That's what they did. And that's what they were doing, and that's what they're probably going to do because they have squad depth as well. All right, let's move on to La Liga. And really, right here, because it's so top-heavy and we know who's going to win the league, either Barcelona or Real Madrid, I really just want to focus on them. No disrespect to Atletico, to Sevilla, to Betis, to Real Sociedad, to any of those teams. But what sells is Barcelona and Real Madrid, of course. With Barcelona, has this hiatus been beneficial? I think it has. I spoke to Dan Hilton a couple of weeks ago from the Barcelona podcast, and he said that he thought that Lionel Messi was banged up. I have no reason to not believe him. I think that Lionel Messi probably lives in pain. I'm pretty sure his knees are close to giving up on him because of how much he plays and how much he gets tackled and how much he has the ball, especially now with this Barcelona that's so dependent on Lionel Messi. Luis Suarez, when he got hurt earlier this year, we just thought that his season was over. And of course, we didn't predict. We couldn't really see what was going to happen with this hiatus for 2 months. That it gave Luis Suarez a second wind, and it gave him a second chance to play in this season again. So they have that player, that number 9, that killer in the box that can finish any opportunity given to him. As for Real Madrid, it's the same situation with Barcelona. Their players are fully rested. They haven't traveled, which is something massive that no one's talking about. The players haven't traveled. If you travel constantly, you know that it's taxing on the body. So these players haven't traveled in 2 months. They haven't trained in an incredibly high intensity. So this might be able to rejuvenate them, right? Especially for these players, again, the top dogs, Messi, Suarez, I was going to say Benzema, but he doesn't go to his national team, Sergio Ramos, Eden Hazard. Those guys that their season doesn't end in May. They still have to go play with their national teams. This is where you get to see that they really needed that rest. And once we see them in great physical shape, I think it's going to be pretty obvious. And speaking of Barcelona and Real Madrid, of course, the title race is very, very close, actually. Let me pull up their standings here. I know Barcelona's in first place somehow, some way. I don't know how. And if Barcelona used their time wisely and they actually, improve their strategy a little bit and the players they understood what Quique Setien's message is, then Barcelona could potentially just run away with the league. But we're looking at 58 points for Barcelona and 56 for Real Madrid. Sevilla's in third place with 47. So that's why I didn't really touch on third place and down. So, it's only a 2-point difference between Barcelona and Real Madrid. To me, it's going to come down to the squad depth. Who has a deeper squad and who uses their substitutions better? Who can come up with the better substitution, or who has the more influential players on the bench? I think Real Madrid has the more influential players on their bench. They can bring in some excellent talent to finish off whatever game they need to finish off. And now with the 5 substitutions, I think that Real Madrid is going to benefit from this more because their squad is deeper than Barcelona's. That's why I think that even though Real Madrid is in second place and they're down 2 points from first, I think that they're probably going to win the league. If we're being completely honest, this is a team that's deeper. This is a team that obviously has experience like Barcelona, but I just think that the depth in this time of the year and with this situation that we've been dealt will matter more. The depth of the squad is going to matter way more than a lot of these other things. All right, now for all the leagues, something that you should just monitor whenever you're watching a game. Obviously, there aren't going to be any fans in these games. That is a given, right? But how will each team counter that situation? Will they pump in crowd noise like the Bundesliga, who has actually been doing it really, really well? I got to give them props. They've been doing an excellent job. It sounds very natural. It sounds like there's actually fans in the stadium, and that's a big, big effort that they've had to put on, because I'm pretty sure it's not easy to replicate the authenticity of the fans that just pour their hearts out every single weekend. Dearly missed, but of course the crowd noise that has been pre-recorded does definitely help us miss it a little less. How creative will these teams be? Will they have the jerseys on the stands, or will they have like those big signs like Real Madrid whenever they walk out to the pitch? It says "Hasta el final, vamos Real," like something like that. I hope they get really creative. I hope they do. This is a time for the creativity to just let loose, and I want to see very, very creative stuff in these stadiums. The second thing that I think you should definitely keep an eye on is the amount of games that these teams are going to have to play. We talked about the rest. We talked about no traveling, and that's great. But guess what? As soon as this restarts, it's not going to stop, because we're going to go a full year. We're going to go a full year. Because if you think about it, the season is going to end early August, mid-August, and then they have to start the 2020-2021 season. So what's going to happen there? That goes into my third point. How will they restructure next season? Is there going to be a quick turnaround? Is there going to be a small gap in between these two seasons, and they're going to, instead of starting in August, they're going to start in September, maybe even October? I don't know. There's so much to monitor here. And of course, although the seasons have been cleared to resume, it's all fine. It's all cool. We can prepare. We have a week to prepare for this. But we still have a lot of uncertainty, and we still have a lot of questions. And I hate to be the person that's thinking about next season already, but we've said this many, many times. One season has already been ruined. We do not want to ruin next season, because next season we can start fresh. And that is ultimately what we want to do. We want to start fresh. So if possible, it would be great for next season, to start fresh, completely fresh, and to not modify it as much as you can. Just try to keep it as normal as possible. I don't know how they will do that. It's going to take a long time for them to figure it out. It might be something that they figure out like the day before. Maybe not the day before, but maybe the week before or something like that. But it's going to take a lot of planning. A whole lot of planning is going to be needed for next season, even this season, to finish off strong, and next season to start off as normal. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it from me. Of course, a lot of trouble with my speaking today. I don't know what was going on. A couple wires were a little loose or something like that. I don't know, but that's pretty much it. I'm just so excited that we have soccer back, and we have a full summer of soccer ready. There's literally going to be games like every day. So this is like a World Cup on steroids. That is something that, of course, we want to witness. And it's sad that we had to go through all of this to get a whole summer of soccer like we're about to get, hopefully. But it is what it is. We got to deal with what we have. And the good thing is that the players are going to be back. And I think most importantly, not a lot of people mention this, but most importantly, the people that work behind the scenes, the cleaning staffs, the people that work at the stadium, the people that work for the team cleaning the jerseys and stuff like that. No one talks about them, but I'm so happy for all those people that earn an honest living. Not that the soccer players don't, but they, of course, the people behind the scenes do not get the recognition from us, the people, or the spectators. They don't get the recognition that they deserve, because without them, I'm pretty sure a lot of these games wouldn't even be possible. So I'm so happy that they get to go back to work, regardless if they had a paycheck throughout this whole situation or not. It doesn't matter. They probably just wanted to get back to work as much as you that's watching and hasn't been working for the last 2.5 months. They want to get back to work as much as you do, and as much as everyone else in the world that is not working. So good for them. Good for all of us that were slowly but surely going back to normal, just little by little, step by step. And yeah, soccer's back. Finally, soccer's back. All right, that'll do it for me. My name is Alex Pérez. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at AlexPérezFC. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/veteransminimum. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at veteransminimum. And that'll do it for me. Until next week, take care. Goodbye.
Sensational goal! Regards